My name is Kathryn Donnell Stevens, and I'm 34 years old. And a few years ago, I started my own photography company called Atlas and Elia Photography. I mostly specialize in wedding photography, but I also love portraiture. I live in Seattle, Washington, and I've lived here for about 6 weeks actually. So I'm almost like a tourist in my own town. Seattle is a very interesting place. It sort of grew up around the timber industry and logging and also the fishing industry. And so it's kind of a rugged town. And you still see that in neighborhoods. The people are really kind of self-sufficient, and sometimes they are a little bit cold at first. And so you have to kind of warm them up a little bit. And so the city itself also is, like a big city, but there's also lots of little neighborhoods that have their own character. And you see the kind of roots in the fishing industry or in the timber industry kind of in each neighborhood. And I think a lot of people are really proud of the history of each neighborhood. I found it really interesting to photograph with a disposable camera, mainly because I feel really, really comfortable with the gear, with the equipment that I use, whether it's a digital camera or medium format film camera or my iPhone. I know what the camera can do. And even though I knew exactly the film that was in this camera, and what the colors might look like, and that I was basically shooting in really good light and that the exposure would be there because that's what a disposable camera does. It gets, a clean exposure. And the framing was the very difficult part, because even though you look through the little viewfinder and see a frame, that's not what the film is going to look like. When I was given the disposable camera to take photos for this project, I had some basic ideas of where I wanted to go. I really wanted to share my experience of the city so far. And I wanted to share with the viewers through this camera, what my experiences are every day, which I think is what, if you're a tourist, is kind of the exciting thing to do, is to go and see what it's like to live in a place rather than, going to see the sights. Of course, there's that too, and I have done that previously, but not since I've lived here. So I really wanted to share through the camera what Seattle looks like to me. And so I purposely, almost exclusively, knew that I was going to avoid the Space Needle, Pike Place Market, and almost all the waterfronts. And so that was my main goal, but I actually didn't really know exactly what I was going to do with the camera besides that. So there's one particular picture that I'm excited to get back and to see what it looks like. And I think it's because it sums up Seattle in many different respects. And so this particular image I came across when I went to the Capitol Hill neighborhood in Seattle. I was going to take a picture of bike polo, which I did, but right next to that there's a big field that has a bunch of different sports that are played on it. And there's also a lot of people, a lot of spectators that kind of just hang out on the side. And there was two women who were exercising, and I think that they were also a couple, and they were doing kind of something funny where they're doing sit-ups, but they're kind of holding on to each other. And so they're really close and they're laughing. And to me, it's just this moment of joy and recreation. It's about their relationship, but also kind of who they are as Seattleites. They're people who really like to be kind of hang out with friends and have lots of fun, and they're outdoorsy and maybe really kind of playful people. And I think that that's, in general, what Seattleites are actually, even if they kind of come across sometimes as being a little cold at first. And so that image totally says that. So my best advice for tourists coming to visit Seattle is to really get away from what you might find in a guidebook, a typical guidebook. And that's something that I'm sure a lot of people now do when they're traveling. But if you can kind of seek out places that you might not normally decide to go, you may even find a place, a neighborhood that you want to go to that you heard about that's kind of cool or chic or whatever, trendy. Go there, but then don't go to the places that you're supposed to go to. Wander around the corner to see what people are doing around that corner. Go into a restaurant and just see if you like the vibe of it. And just because it got a really good review on Yelp, if it's not your vibe, leave and go to another one, because there's so many options for different types of feelings, different types of people. I think before people see my pictures, I want them to understand that the images are supposed to be a reflection of what I see daily and the little moments and interactions that I see people having on a regular basis here in Seattle. And know that the images are supposed to be kind of personal, but again, they're also a reflection of maybe what I hope people can learn to see all the time, which is that we are all really connected to one another, and we're not that different from each other, and there's beauty everywhere.